Welcome back to this channel, and to continue where we left our this playlist Master Spring Boot. In the previous two video we have completed two REST API with get mapping. As told in my last video that in this video we will cover request header and response type. So first quickly we are going to run our application and we'll see that where we left off. Earlier we were just calling our API on browser. Now we will be using Postman. I will share the link of Postman in the description so you can download it, and it's easier for us in our next API which we are going to build. So the first API which we have built in our first video of this playlist was to send a get request and return a response, whereas the default code was 200. And the second endpoint we have written where we are sending path parameter and request parameter, and we are getting our response back, and the status code is 200. And these are our default header because it's easier for us to see, or it's easier for us to pass header information in Postman. That's why we are using this tool. You can use any other tool whichever you are familiar with, but Postman is quite popular and its UI is quite convenient. Now coming back to our code where we left off. Now we'll do a bit correction. The name, because if you see right, this name is version 2 is not okay. So we are using proper naming convention so that it look nice. Now we'll create our API. The first thing, we will create our method public as always, and then we will create object. This one will be customer with header. Now we are going to pass same details, path, variable. You can copy paste actually, but I am not going to copy paste because copy paste is not good, because then you will not remember the syntax, and with the ID is already becoming easier for everyone because you need to write it, because in interview you are not going to get the ID. Okay, so I better suggest that you write the code. I can copy paste to save time, but I will type in, it will not take much time. Okay, now default value will be same. Okay, now what you are going to, now this is something, see, even if you have not typed, it's just throwing it, it expects something, you know, right? I think all the experienced people will know that why it usually throw error like this. It is actually expecting something in return. Okay, so for the college pass out student, whenever they write, it usually expecting something to return. So we can just add this, even though this is also not right because it will expect us to return customer, but I think for now we'll ignore it. Okay, just for an explanation I just explain it. Okay, so now we have completed this. This is exactly the same which we have done in our version 2 API. Okay, so it will exactly the same, ID comma customer ID comma name. Okay, now I think this is something is, yeah, see, that's what something is missing here. Now what we are going to do is, we are going to define our endpoint. So it will be get. We are still learning get because we still haven't covered, there are so many things we can cover. Usually people only teach one thing at a time, and just they don't teach important things. Okay, and they even don't tell you that you need to define versioning. Yeah. And if you are working in an enterprise application and if you build without version, then they will get it that you are just a newbie guy, and this is highly accepted at very big companies. Okay, so now we are going to, this is our version 3, we are going to pass same endpoint customers whereas we will be passing an ID. Okay, same, it will be same as customer ID. Make sure that there is no mistake. Okay, now we are going to understand. We'll cover header first and then we'll cover response entity. So now if you see, right, let's jump back to our Postman and just little bit analyze it. Okay, so if you see, right, that currently we are just sending a request and we are getting it. Okay, and if you could see in this UI, right, this is our first API. Okay, so if you need to set up it, what you need to do is when you install the Postman, right, just copy the URL. Okay, this is our endpoint. Okay, version v1, and this is our context name request mapping HackCS, which we have defined here. Okay, this is HackCS, and then this one will be endpoint to that specific API, and then you will be your port name. It will be HTTP because it will not be HTTPS because we need a SSL certificate. Anyhow, we'll cover that in future. And it will be get mapping. So when we click on this send button, it will send the request and we will get a response. Okay, now if you see that by default Postman is so clever, and even the browsers are also clever, right, that it is showing to me that it has 7 hidden headers. Okay, because in this video we are going to understand what headers are. So if you see that these are the headers: cache control, no cache, Postman token, host, user agent, accept encoding, and connection. So what are headers? Header is, if I have to really explain you, okay, before headers we understood what parameters are. We have request parameter, right, and if we come to our version 2 version, right, and if we come here, right, in our previous video we have understood, right, what is request parameter and what is path variable. Customer ID is a path variable. This 123 is path variable. That's why you see, right, params or request parameters are different. We need to print that before question mark and after question mark values will be displayed in Postman. So it's easier, right? See, whatever value you write here, right, it will come automatically here. We have covered parameters, which is request parameters. Authorization is also a type of a header. It is little special header. We'll come to this later on. And then there are headers. So if you see here, we have many headers. These are by default headers, and then we have body, and then we have other thing. These are internally to test Postman automation stuff and all, but we'll not cover this in this course. So coming back to headers again, so we'll hide these headers, and then the reason I show it to you, right, because we are going to add some headers here. Okay, if you see, there is one, I've already added one header here earlier. Okay, so now what we are going to do is we are going to go back to our code and just try to add some header. Okay, before coming to that header, right, there is one more thing we cover, right, that when we are sending this request, okay, when we send this request, right, you see that we are receiving a header also. Okay, the content type was JSON, it was a chunk, this was the time, and this was the keep alive time, and then this connection is alive, keep alive. Okay, so there are variety of headers, means there are request header, there are response headers. When someone is calling you your API, you need to, when you are designing an API, right, you can define it in your API that what all headers you will accept, and if someone is not passing those headers, you're not going to take the request, because the APIs which are exposed to internet, anyone can call those things. So that's why headers also hold some information which are more towards server related, system specific, basically system specific. But when it comes to request parameters or body, those information are subjective to application or subjective to client. Client means we are building any finance app or any telecom app, right? So those user details will become under body, request body basically. So request body will cover in our upcoming future video. So now we are going to add a header. So now how are we going to add a header here? So it is quite simple, because we have learned two things: path variable, we have learned request parameter, and now what we are going to cover is, which is request header. You see, there are so many request param, we have learned request mapping, request header. Because it is an HTTP call, HTTP headers, and then it will be just a variable HTTP. So now something is interesting happening. So basically there are so many headers. When I say so many header means I'm not going to cover, means I can make a separate video on only talking about headers, because there are many headers and all the headers have different properties. But now we'll start simple and we'll just do one simple thing. What we are going to do is we are going to add a header and we are going to check what value I am passing. So we are going to do http dot get, http dot get, and then we are going to define, let me check, I think, yeah, you see. So the method I was expecting is not the one http headers I need to import. You see, this usually, this is, people do mistake, they import something wrong, means usually the college students, they import something wrong and then they post that, oh sir, I am facing this issue. So this can happen. So this is not the one we need to import. Okay, we need to import the one ORG Spring Framework header. So make sure that you import the correct one. So now we are going to get authorization. Authorization is also a type of header, whereas when we are going to understand Spring security, right, when we are going to cover the one of the topic in Spring security, then we are going to understand in detail what actually authorization header is basically. Okay, so now we just got whatever value they are going to pass in authorization header. Okay, now what we are going to do is we are just going to print this value. Okay, actually I can also do one clever thing. Okay, because let us see whether this will work or not. Okay, instead of printing here, we'll just copy this. Okay, and we're just going to see whether this will work or it will not work, because okay, I think, okay, so basically I know this, we need to do that because this is not written as string, and our third parameter of our customer is string. Okay, so we have done this. Okay, we are just reading a header which we have just now discussing here, right, that we need to we are learning header, how we are going to pass a header to our code. Now we will restart our server. Okay, and then we are going to see whether it will work or not. Okay, so we have just started our server and then we are going to create one more. We'll just copy paste our second one because it is exactly the same. Okay, and then we are going to paste this thing. We are going to change this to version 3. Okay, and then we are going to come to header and we are going to add our header. Let us save this. Okay, now this is authorization header, and let us pass value I am header. I am. Okay, now just let us run this and see what will happen. Okay, we are getting some error. It is saying that it is not found. Now let us understand that what went wrong. We were running this and what went wrong was that we haven't passed version v here. That's why we are getting this error. Now it is working. So if you see, now what we are going to do is we are just going to get the value dot toString, and we'll see that whether our header is coming in our body or not. Okay, did you see that we are able to read our header value, and then we are going to pass our header value in our body, okay, in our response basically. So now we know that how to add or what is request header, okay, and how to add or how to read header values. Now coming back to another topic which we are going to cover is that what is response entity. Okay, response entity is, the name looks quite complicated, but it's nothing complicated. It is just that if you see that here we are returning the entire customer object, but if you notice in all the three APIs, right, which we have written so far, all are returning 200 to us, or if sometimes there is some issue, right, it is returning some default code. Now in scenarios like we need to have some different codes, then how are you going to do that? So in that scenario we have a response entity, and then we can have our HTTP status and our body. Now what we are going to do is we are going to leave this as it is, or we are going to just change this back to our name, okay, and then we will leave it this till now, and then we will do some thing after we add our response entity. Okay, so to add response entity, it's quite simple. What you need to do is, and you also need to remember, right, that currently you see we are getting 200. Okay, 200 means okay. You can watch my video for status code. Now let us add response entity. Okay, so we will add response entity. Okay, so now you see that it is start throwing me error here, okay, because it is expecting something else. So now we are going to change this what it is expecting. So but we have to change our code a little bit. So what we are going to do is we are going to just simply create our customer. Okay, let's create customer object. Okay, read all the details. Okay, now we are going to just return, and then we are going to new response entity. Okay, now what we need to pass? Our customer object. Okay, correct. We need to pass our customer object, comma, our HTTP status. So now what we need to pass? We are getting what we are getting. We are getting 200. So let us pass accepted. Okay. Okay, just add the bucket in here. Okay, now. Okay, so basically I know this is quite. I'm just rerunning our server. Okay, but there are tools which reload your server. Okay, so there is no point. There's no point. I don't want to add another library to just rerun my server automatically. So we just added our status code. Okay, now let us see what it returns to us. So now it is returning 200, which is accepted. You see, earlier it was returning 200. You can go back to the you can go back few seconds, and then you can see that it was returning 201, which is okay. 200, I think. Yeah, I also forgot. Okay, now let us see. Let us change it. So we have accepted, and then see, and we can see created. Just quickly let see, now it is 202. It has become 201. So we need to pass response entity, returning object, and then our error, our status code, because this technically why we need it. We can pass one code to everyone, right? 200, 200, 200. But that is not a better design. Become a better software engineer, and then your API have a meaning to it. If everything is same, then there's no meaning to life also, right? So that's why it's quite important. You need to have a real understanding that what code you should always define. So now coming back to our authorization header. So now what we are going to do is, because right now we have variety of code, so what we are going to do is, this is quite, we are going to add one if else law. Now we are going to add if http dot get. Okay, now I told you, right, that we have lot of headers. We have so many headers. We have accept character, accept language, so many. Okay, you can explore all the list, and definitely we'll have a use case for mostly all of the important concepts which are used to build an enterprise application. So if you are watching my video till now, subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up. I will upload, and then you will learn a lot. Coming back to the video, where were we? To define our condition to throw an error if header is not present. Okay, authorization if else. Okay, I told you not to do copy paste, but I think I don't want that video get too big, so I just did it. Okay, now what we need to do is contains. Okay, now we are going to give something very unauthorized. I think it will be the other way around. Okay, so if authorization header contains my key, don't tell this key, this is the secret. Every company have their secret key. If they don't have this key, it will throw me different code. Now let us rerun. Before rerunning, let us see that what is happening now. So we have removed this code, right, to show the value. So we'll just run it. Okay, enabling this, disabling this will just enable the header, so don't worry on this one. If I disable this one, this means that it is not passing the header value. Okay, so don't worry too much on this. Now let us rerun. So application just ran, so now we'll just run it. Wow, something come up. It is giving us internal error. Why? Okay, yeah, I know why. This is one more scenario. This is a scenario where header itself is not present. Yeah, as I said, you're right. If I untick this, it will not even pass the header. So this is an exceptional scenario. Let's see, so this is giving us 500 internals over error. This means that sometimes, for experienced person, they will know, right, that whenever we call some third-party APIs, right, and we get internals over error. So usually developer did some mistake, something like that, or we are passing something wrong in the API. Now, how to fix it? No, not fix it. I will not fix this. I will cover this thing in another video because this is something interesting topic to cover up. This video is getting longer. So now, okay. So we have defined what value I am a secret key. Now if you run this, what will happen? It is giving me unauthorized. Okay, but it is returning a value. It should not return me my values. Even though it is giving me unauthorized, it is returning, developer is returning the value. Developer should not return the value, it should return me some message. Okay, that will cover another time, but for now we are going to remove it. Okay, and we are just passing unauthorized. Okay, just quickly run it, and then so now if you see, we are getting unauthorized. Okay, and without a body. So you will learn something. We no need to pass the success thing or failure scenario. Okay, developer should not pass it. Now this is our secret key. Don't tell this thing to anyone. Okay, only we know this thing. So now we pass our secret key. Oh, you see the magic? Even if I just add something extra, right, it will not work. You see, this is the magic of header. Usually people don't see the header, normal public don't see the header. Okay, and this key, it will be some very long unique code. Okay, every company, every big organization, like for example, right, if I have to tell you, right, for example, some random number, it is so big that no one can even understand. It is like so token like some, and then they add some logic that multiplied by or added something, some pass through some internal logic, so no one can crack it, no one can even call your API. Okay, this is one of the security thing which we are going to cover in our upcoming videos. You're going to learn a lot of things. Okay. Again, subscribe to my channel. If you're new to this channel, then definitely give me a subscribe and click on the notification bell and give me a thumbs up if you want more video like this. Okay, so we learn something, we add this, and also we can in our upcoming videos, right, what we are going to do is we are going to define this key in our database. Also in database we can also define certain level of setup over there, and then we can read the value from there. Not like some app, you're watching somewhere else where they are just hard-coded, and then means you will not learn much, but here you are going to learn definitely very high grade knowledge, very enterprise grade knowledge. Okay, so hit the thumbs up or subscribe button. So now our header is working. There are many more headers we can experiment. Okay, and there are many more conditions which we can cover up. So now what I'm going to do is, this video is already becoming longer and we have covered a lot of exception scenario, failure scenario, successful scenario. We have covered response entity, we have covered HTTP headers, and we have covered authorization. So I would suggest, and we have also covered HTTP status codes. So I would recommend you to subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, and wait for next upcoming video. Thank you. Bye bye.